It is a well-known fact that Western special forces are present in Ukraine, but there has been no mass deployment of Western troops. However, as the Financial Times writes, this could soon change as Donald Trump's return to the White House has rekindled interest in the idea. Trump, keen to distance the US from European security, has said he wants a ceasefire as soon as possible. And Kyiv has hinted it is willing to make a deal if its allies provide credible security guarantees. That has reopened talks about how Western troops, particularly European ones, could help maintain the truce Trump hopes to broker with Moscow, the article says. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that if Europe was serious about providing effective deterrence, it would need 200,000 troops at a minimum. However, according to people involved in discussions between Kiev and Western partners, Ukrainian officials believe that 40,000 to 50,000 foreign troops may be realistic and sufficient. The newspaper writes, the mission will have three goals: to reassure Ukraine of Western support, to deter Russia from attacking again, and to show the United States that Europe is committed to Ukraine's security, the article says. As Camille Grand, a former senior NATO official, notes, these forces must be robust enough not to become an easy target that Russia could immediately test, and large enough not to require immediate reinforcement. Grand said the force could number 40,000 and would likely be formed as part of an ad hoc coalition led by Britain, France and the Netherlands, with the Baltic and Northern Europeans also involved. NATO's role will be deliberately kept to a minimum to limit the risk of escalation in relations with Russia. However, Grand suggested that within the so-called Berlin Plus format, the EU could use NATO's strategic planning capabilities to conduct peacekeeping operations such as in Bosnia and Herzegovina. As the FT notes, European troops will certainly be on Ukraine's side, but they will not be fighting on the front lines. They will therefore form a stabilization force or deterrence force rather than a fully neutral peacekeeping force. One model is South Korea, where the US has a significant military presence, although South Korean troops are doing the fighting. Another is KFOR, the US-led peacekeeping operation in Kosovo. At the same time, the FT warns the idea itself is based on a peace settlement with Russia that would allow Ukraine to retain sovereignty, control its territory, and keep its army. But Russia may never agree to this. Moscow may also renege on any deal it signs, the newspaper warns. At the same time, Europe may also refuse to send troops into a hot water for fear of escalating the conflict with Russia. The US may also refuse to provide the logistical support that would be needed to carry out the operation.
The Israeli military said on Wednesday that its combat troops that fought in the Jabalia area for weeks has left the Gaza Strip. According to Associated Press, it released video it said showed the departure of Javadi Brigade troops from the Gaza Strip. The truce, now in its fourth day, is supposed to bring calm to the war-battered Gaza for at least 6 weeks and see 33 Hamas-held hostages released in return for hundreds of Palestinians imprisoned by Israel. The war began when Hamas-led militants stormed into Israel on October 7, 2023, killing some 1,200 people, mostly civilians, and abducting around 250. Around 100 hostages still remain in Gaza, after the rest were released, rescued, or their bodies were recovered. Israel's military campaign has killed over 47,000 Palestinians in Gaza, according to local health authorities, who say women and children make up more than half of the fatalities but do not say how many of the dead were fighters. Israel says it killed over 17,000 militants, without providing evidence. The Israel military released footage on Wednesday showing what they say are forces operating in Jenin, in the occupied West Bank. According to Associated Press on Tuesday, a major Israeli military operation in the West Bank killed at least 9 Palestinians and left 40 more people wounded, Palestinian health officials said. Israel's ceasefire with Hamas in Gaza does not apply to the West Bank, where Israeli troops have carried out near-daily raids during the war that often ignite gun battles. The built-up Jenin refugee camp in the northern West Bank has long been a bastion of armed struggle, and has been a focus of Israeli raids. The Israeli military said in a statement that forces have initiated a counter-terrorism operation in the area. Earlier Tuesday, the Palestinian Health Ministry said an Israeli strike on the Jenin refugee camp killed 2 people. Their identity was not immediately clear. The Palestinian Authority, which administers parts of the West Bank, launched its own raid late last year into the Jenin area, hoping to position itself as a serious player in governing post-war Gaza. The Palestinian Health Ministry says more than 800 people have been killed by Israeli forces in the West Bank since October 2023. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres on Tuesday called on security forces to use maximum restraint in the West Bank, a spokesman said.